Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, July 29th. We are on the Americas account. I believe that means we probably need to do the Asian account Tavern Brawl since it's Monday. Let's re-roll this 50. Alright, win 5 games any mode, win 3 games Paladin or Warrior, win 3 games Shaman or Warlock. I think that's pretty doable. Now, since it is the near end of the month, or perhaps the last day that I'll stream Hearthstone this month, depending on whether July has 30 or 31 days. These are little details that I never ascribed to memory. There's an old Sherlock Holmes story. I think it's in the very first Sherlock Holmes book where Watson tells Sherlock Holmes something about the moon or something like that, and Sherlock Holmes goes, I will now try my very best to forget that piece of information since it's irrelevant to me and I need as much room in my brain for relevant information, which is kind of a slap in the face when you look over the entirety of the Sherlock Holmes stories and you tell that Sherlock Holmes has a plethora of what one would classify as irrelevant information that he knows that will be used in some weird way to solve a murder. Relevancy is a hard thing to determine before the situation has even occurred. Pretty much impossible to determine. So I did do some scheduling. I'm not coming today from the perspective of I did nothing over the weekend. But I will say I did do pretty little during the weekend. Had some repairman over for my house installing a new water heater, which sucks and is expensive. But that's pretty much all I can say about that, because it's really nothing. They just installed it and then left, but I was hanging around making sure they were doing it at least somewhat right. I don't have any education in plumbing, barely, so all I can do is try to be responsible, read the manual, see if it's installed right, see if it looks to a layman's eye like something was done correctly. There's nothing to really tell there from my perspective. But I can say that the plumbers did work pretty dirty. There definitely were some managerial things that if I was the boss, I would consider. Arriving late, not calling, saying that they were going to be late, leaving trash at the end of the day, just not efficient, good business practices, as far as I'm concerned now. But I mean, you can make that complaint. They might be the best plumbers in the city, and they just might work really badly and really dirty. That might be the trade-off. You might have somebody else that you hire that does a great job as far as making things clean and presentable, but then doesn't understand the basics of proper plumbing, and all the pipes explode and leak. And so, yeah, this is where me personally not having any experience or knowledge in plumbing falls apart, is because I just don't have a clue on those aspects. But I do have a general clue on how businesses should run and how customers should be treated. And if you see that if you're working with a contractor or a business and they're not treating you the way you feel you should be treated, or an average customer should be treated, and you're not making ridiculous demands, then you probably shouldn't do business with them, because that is an indication that there's potentially going to be some other issues down the line. I mean, for instance, what good is a warranty on someone's work if they're going to treat you badly or not honor their warranty, or if they give any indication that they're going to treat you badly or not honor the warranty? Inherently with contractors doing house repair work, you need each and every interaction to be a very positive reaction. You want the customer to be overly satisfied and overly happy, but that's not what you get a lot of the time. A lot of contractors, it is just a race to the bottom, the penny pinch, and to just not give good service generally speaking. And that's why for most home repair contractors, you should probably cycle through a lot of them. Like, hire them to do one job, and then if they give you any trouble at all, don't hire them for the next job. Find somebody different until you find that unicorn, until you find that one service that has nothing whatsoever that you can complain about. But anyways, the main point as far as woke up early, spent the entire day basically just being available in case they had any questions or needed any decisions made. And I could go on for another 20 minutes complaining about things. In particular, them like not really preparing or reading the manual, because these plumbers were installing a Rheem brand, which is the Home Depot brand of water heater, because it was the brand that could hook up to the Wi-Fi. We bought a special one that could hook up to Wi-Fi and you could control from your cell phone, and that extra add-on box was supposed to be in the box, and they did not have it in the box by the time they got it to my house. And they said the box was torn open and they thought everything was inside. Clearly, if they'd looked in the manual, if they'd done some research, if they'd cared at all, they would have known, wait a minute, no, the super important Wi-Fi thing that was the main reason why that model was bought in the first place is missing. If the box was open, they could have easily looked through the manual then, or they could have gotten the model number and read the manual then, if this is truly the first time they've ever actually installed this brand of water heater, because clearly they didn't know what they were doing 100%, and they left a piece of insulation out on the floor as if it was trash, instead of having it installed where it was supposed to be. I know the manual hadn't been touched. They also what more to complain about? I had them install a water filter, pre-filter. When installing anything in plumbing, if you go from a copper pipe or a metal pipe to a plastic connection, to then back to a metal pipe, you need to jump the ground. They didn't do that. I brought it up to them as they were halfway through, or as they were leaving, to be fair, and they said, oh, well, we're gonna come back and fix that because we got other things we have to come fix too. So there's like 3 things that they set themselves up to come back for a second trip when there was no need for a second trip had they just prepared. And made sure they had everything. It seems like these plumbers had nothing whatsoever.
This guy's toast.
It needs to be sitting in a different kind of bed pan, which is a pan to just collect water if it busts a hole in it and starts leaking. The old one was not the right size because the new water heater is a little bit bigger. The fact that they didn't have extra pans in their truck is suspicious and weird. And the fact that they didn't have some measurements taken, because they took 3 weeks. They had an estimate from 3 weeks ago. They had plenty of time to go, well, let's get this right, let's get all the parts we need, let's have some extra things here. And yet they're not prepared to finish the job on the one day it should have taken them to install it. They had a second team show up without telling us the second team is showing up. So just a couple more guys just walked through my front door without announcing themselves or knocking on the door or anything, which quite literally could have ended up with them being shot. Is walking into people's doors without announcing yourself the first time is not professional or safe in any way. They spilt water all over the place, had no towels down, and well, they spilled water all in the garage where the water heater is, and then they just left it in. They made sure to only spill water in the garage, as if the garage didn't matter, because there was foam, like work mats that they were spilling on, and even if they were just spilling water on concrete garage floor, it's still where are your towels? Where is your work ethic there? They did nothing whatsoever to attempt to dry that up. They just left it there to evaporate. Just working dirty, working really dirty. Their truck has like no labeling on it. They claim to have been in the business for 16 years, yet they've just merged, and thus they have a new logo, which is just a new logo and a new name, and the new name is just one letter of every person in the group, which is a suggestion that a cheap business lawyer will make when people can't decide or don't want to spend the money to do any kind of other branding. Is just take one letter or take the names of the people and make it like a law firm. So it's not a good name they picked by any means. Their logo doesn't, like, there are 5 letters in the name of this company, which would mean they probably have 50 years of experience combined in there. So why does the logo not say that? The guy told me specifically that they've been in the business for 16 years, so at the very least you could claim over a decade or over 16 years experience. Try to put something as a selling point in your logo. But yeah, again, a lot of my complaints are around how they ran their business outside. The plumbing might be top notch, except for the fact that they didn't jump the ground, which that's electrical, but that's safety issue that plumbers should know how to do. Having 2 wire straps and a ground wire, again, something that should have easily been in the truck, and there's no reason that you should leave that safety element out for a couple days. That's not safe, that's not smart. It's up in the air in my mind whether anyone's actually from like this city going to inspect their work, and if people do inspect their work, that will be the interesting part. Is if we get a city inspector in there and they write up several code violations that I don't see as a layman. Plumbing is weird too. Like when you own a house, you become a lot more keenly aware of how important it is to have good plumbing and not have clogged drains, not have cracks in your drainage, have good piping in general. But there's no real vocational education that you can get for that so much unless you go to a vocational school specifically around plumbing or refrigeration. In high school, while I took 2 years of electronics, there's no comparison to plumbing. There's no 2 years in high school of plumbing as far as I've ever heard. Maybe there is some school out there that does that, but so if there had been classes like that, I probably would have taken them, or at least considered taking them. In the end, I took like drafting for a year as an elective, and I probably would have done better in the long run having some education in plumbing over drafting. There's some basic home maintenance classes that would be really nice if they were taught in schools. Simple things, plumbing wise, in just finding your main shut off, finding if there's a second main shut off, knowing to insulate and weather seal your exterior spouts that you would hook up a water hose to in the winter, knowing to winterize that. The fact of or the knowledge of, let's see, do I want to know minions that want to do that actually? Yeah, main things you need to know how to plumb is the proper way to plunge a toilet and know when to stop plunging a toilet, because there is some instances where a clog will be so stuck that you have to just say, alright, we need a snake around there, and you probably don't need a snake, although if you're having a lot of problems with clogged drainage, having a snake wouldn't be too bad. Knowing not to allow hair to fall down a bathtub shower drain, and just always have a rubber or hair catch is a great move that a lot of people probably don't recognize. Or knowing how to change the handles on a shower tub, that's some basic plumbing stuff you should know. Knowing how to change the stopper on a sink, things like that are simplistic enough. Knowing how to fix the float valve or replace the float valve mechanism in a toilet is all things that people, I imagine, very often hire plumbers to do that don't need to be done. And you can easily make a decision that I'm not going to deal with any of the dirty stuff, and I'm not going to snake, I'm not going to deal with a horrible clog, but you should be able to at least plunge a toilet and know the right way to do it and the right kind of plunger to use, because you can certainly buy the wrong kind of plungers and end up not being very effective. But yeah, that's my story as it stands for the water heater installation. I'm gonna grin and bear it and let the plumbers come back and finish the job, and then really don't intend to hire them again. But yeah, that's pretty much how the way I would recommend it. I could certainly confront them and make complaints, but confronting people and making complaints isn't really going to motivate them to finish the job. So I'd want them to finish their work first and think we're on good terms still, and give them even maybe a little bit of a second chance to fix things and apologize for just how dirty they worked. But yeah, getting into confrontations isn't gonna work. I don't see how that accomplishes much. And maybe that is why so many contractors do just nickel and dime you and do bad jobs, is because they know that they're not going to inspire any kind of loyalty or anything like that, because of the simple fact that they know that they can't do a outstanding, for lack of a better term, job that would inspire people to want to. Let's see. Well, this Amigo simply looks a lot like the Yu-Gi-Oh card Relinquished. I just realized that. Interesting. Are they just now heavily inspiring their artwork? Or stealing artwork directly? Turn. Alright, yeah, the only other thing I really did was watch a lot of Bar Rescue, which might be in part of my complaint too, is that I'm watching Bar Rescue, which is effectively Hell's Kitchen with it being a little bit more simplified. I think Gordon Ramsay probably is way better than John Tapper is, who is the main Gordon Ramsay-like character for Bar Rescue. And I think you have to kind of approach both Hell's Kitchen and Bar Rescue from the perspective of a lot of these restaurants or bars were going to fail anyways, and there's often very little that can be done to fix the problem. On the other hand, I also wouldn't be surprised if sometimes these shows don't do the right things, and there arguably might be a right thing to be done. I don't think I want to play Warrior on Ranked anymore. In fact, it's probably not a bad idea to not be playing anything on Ranked, because we don't have a ton of news once I start getting into the news, and we want to stretch this out and make 3 episodes. The one thing I would say so far from watching a lot of Bar Rescue is that I probably would be a lot better manager of a bar than I would be a restaurant, just because it's not as complicated. It seems pretty easy, relatively speaking, but probably extremely hard regardless. But yeah, maybe that's also inspiring some of my discontentment with how the contractors did their business. It's not unrealistic to say though that I leave disappointed with most interactions I have with most people that I hire to do anything. Short of like fast food restaurants, where fast food restaurants in particular, you go to McDonald's, a Wendy's, a Burger King, they've got their procedures down pat. They're going to give you a close to 100% consistent product. It's not going to be particularly great, but it's going to be consistent, and it's going to be what you expected. But yeah, if I have to have anybody else do anything else, I don't like it. If I could do it myself, I probably would want to do it myself. But certainly there are certain things I'm not qualified to do, many things. But I am a little bit of a perfectionist, and maybe just a little bit of a jerk too, so. But I don't think my complaint against contractors is different than most people's complaints. I imagine there are people out there though that just hire contractors and don't have a clue and don't care to even look or at the work they do, so they would just be happily, blissfully ignorant about the work that's done.
Come on in, spend an evening by the fire.
So maybe I shouldn't go looking for problems in a sense, but also I'd rather know what's potentially going to happen, not be left in the dark. Yeah, I'm gonna just switch over to casual. One of the reasons why I've been watching a lot of TVs though is also my back again is not in great shape, so I've been in a lot of pain recently. So yeah, lying down and watching TV becomes the only thing I can really do, because I have to sit up in a gaming chair, which is pretty useless, to play video games. But I will be done with all the scheduling, and I'm not really at a position, well, the YouTube Studio Beta is still not in a finalized finished product position where I could try and program and automate things. The good news there is there might be some hope for thumbnails. The TubeBuddy plugin, and this will really only matter, I think, to YouTube content creators. The TubeBuddy plugin on its free license will now has a thumbnail generator, which can, if the video is public, take the default image that is made, which is what I've just been using, the one of 3 pictures that Google picks to say we think these would be successful auto-generated thumbnails. TubeBuddy can take that default image if the video is public, and then manipulate it a little bit. You can put an image over it that would act as a layer. So if you make a 1080p, I assume that's the right size. If you make a 1080p PNG file with a clear background, so not full of white color, not full of black, actually clear, which is something you would do in either GIMP or Photoshop more likely. If you load that image up, then it will just it will go on top of the default image. So I could theoretically have a little R for Rydo logo up in the corner. I could have a black background color gradient over here, and that's what I did as a demo. And then the rest of it would just be whatever game I'm playing. Then you can also add text through the TubeBuddy plugin to put like an episode and title number, which would make sense for me. So theoretically, and this is more theory than true implementation in any way, if I could get a good overlay image made, or make one myself, I could get a good starting place to then have a macro take the episode name, which it would already know because it would be scheduling the video anyways, and put that episode name in the same place every time, and then every episode on a series would have a convenient look, and my channel in general would just have a consistent look. The main problem I'm having right now is just having ideas for that. Like, I briefly thought about having like a red bar and then a white bar and then a gray bar, so it looked like it was the loading element of YouTube. If you're watching on mobile, like the video has partially loaded and it's buffered quite a bit, so people think like, oh, I've already started watching this, I should continue watching this. A little deceptive, a little clickbaity, to say the least, and it would be inconsistent, frankly. I don't know if you really should have like, share, and subscribe type things on the thumbnail. I'm really just lacking in an artistic vision. If you did the rule of thirds, is there any way I could make an overlay that would do the rule of thirds and make it look good? If I perhaps made like a little pointer peak here that would make a line in people's minds to this point, and then a pointer peak here on the edge that made a line in people's minds to this point, could you imply the rule of thirds that way, or does that not work? I could have an opacity to the layer, so I could theoretically darken one edge and then brighten 1/3 and darken another third, or put tints, color tints over everything. Just a little bit, like a 1%, maybe 5% color tint over everything. Would that potentially take a default image and I guess not prevent, but create something that was significant enough or interesting enough to change things? I don't know if I really want to do like a red circle like everybody did for a while there. I saw people putting new up in the corner. That wouldn't even be true, because I'd be applying this to like all my old videos as much as possible, and definitely trying to like replace some of the terrible thumbnails I had before, that were black and just not using the current logo. I'm definitely not an artist and definitely not skilled on this, but I do understand I think at least I understand the potential that could be there.
For justice.
Let's see. Or the potential that an overlay might be able to do, but I am pretty artistically bankrupt. They say you want somebody's face, or you want your face in general on thumbnails, or a human face on thumbnails. I don't really have a way to do that because I don't want to release my face out there. It definitely probably wouldn't get any clicks anyways. So, man, I'm not getting very many victories. This is annoying. Let's try Shaman and Warlock. Might as well. So I was thinking, if I made the outline of a face and then had a bunch of text over it and did kind of like the Matrix effect in the face and had that on the side, would that catch people's attention or be interesting?
I will fight with honor.
I don't think it really would be. There would be a way where you could just do the outline of a face, certainly on the side, and you could do it on both sides, and it would be like a Talking Heads-esque theme. But I don't want to overlay too much. If a third to half of the game the default thumbnail is gone, then it's gonna lose a lot of distinctiveness. I also don't really want to frame things in, which would be doable. The TubeBuddy Plus thing doesn't allow you to use frames, but there's really nothing stopping you from drawing a frame in Photoshop on that PNG overlap. The free version only allows you one image, which wouldn't be a problem in my issue. You can delete one image and then upload another. Inherently, the TubeBuddy is constantly adding features that should be just by default in YouTube in itself. But yeah, it is something I could work with, whereas before this existed, there really was nothing I could work with. I would have had to figure out the best way to download the thumbnails, which I don't even know exactly how you do that. And then after you download those thumbnails, you would have to edit each one in a very unautomated process to try and have something there, or you start from scratch. And that's what I see from a lot of artists, is that they just have a lot of video game YouTubers, is that they just have an artist on call, for lack of a better term, that is there for the whole duration to animate things. And they draw everything from scratch at the beginning of from no real template, and then they'll make a template per game, but the template per game barely follows any kind of artistic guidance for the template from a different game. I'm thinking something like the Super Beard Bros or Game Grumps videos, thumbnails in particular. A lot of other people barely do anything and just put a bunch of text on it. So yeah, I'm lacking a lot of guidance. I'm lacking a lot of intelligence and knowledge there. I watch tons and tons of YouTube, but I've never given a thought to really any of the thumbnails I've seen. The only thumbnails that ever catch my attention on YouTube are when it's somebody doing something sexually provocative in the thumbnail, to inevitably have that thumbnail not show up in the video, or show up just for a brief second and not be what it is implied to be at all. So I guess we need to move forward with the news as we're playing here. I guess if I finish all the news, we'll wrap up early, and that'll give me more time to just take a break. It kind of feels like I've unintentionally taken a vacation after doing all of the October recordings. That's not a terrible thought. It is something, though, I wish I had actually said out loud. Because had I actually said it out loud and thought of it that way, I would have felt a lot better about that being the situation. So we have a game here on Steam called Warman. Let's see. It looks like it's a top-down Diablo-esque game. RPG. And visually, it's not particularly impressive. What I'm also noticing is, for a second there, it looked like there was no video. So, yeah. Doesn't seem like you do much other than walk around in what is effectively a dungeon with just greenery. And it seems like you don't even get outside of that greenery dungeon area very often. Because that's all I'm seeing. This is early access for $13.49. Discounted, English only. Don't see anything here that impresses me. Alright. This I can do. That I can do. I wouldn't be surprised if that is exactly what we have to talk about. Oh, I suppose it is slightly worth mentioning, but probably not by a lot, that some sort of deal fell through with the is it called the E3 podcast? Ethan H3 podcast? Yeah, I think it's the H3 podcast, which I occasionally follow. I don't know if I really like their content. In fact, for a significant amount, I don't like their content. But something fell apart between their deal with how they were being treated at Twitch versus how they were being treated at YouTube. It's pretty obvious and makes a lot of sense for someone to say that YouTube treats its big money makers rather well, and gives special treatment to their big channels. Well, apparently they weren't treating H3's podcast that well, and so they broke apart and left them. And according to H3's podcast, when they left them, they also removed them from their partnership program so they couldn't get ads, even though this was a completely separate deal. So they were just being either incredibly stupid or incredibly unprofessional, take your pick, and being spiteful. And so in a couple of clips on the H3 podcast, they've talked about how the people running Twitch are childish and not professional, and that the Twitch, they don't think personally they don't think Twitch is going to survive, and they find the claims that Alinity, the major female streamer that keeps getting into drama on Twitch, might be getting special treatment because she might be having an illicit affair with some of the Twitch staff. H3 says they believe that is credible, believable. There's been very little interaction personally I've had with Twitch, but I've never really felt like their service was a service that would help their service grow in a weird way. There's a Reddit element here where just on Reddit 5 minutes ago, somebody's channel was demonetized and they won't pay because they're saying that this person had too many subscribers for the amount of time they streamed, and that they're claiming there was just a bunch of subscribe bots or view bots, which I mean maybe not, but the response that's shown on Reddit, if the emails get verified, seems incredibly childish and unprofessional and not well read, to the point where they would have been better off simply not saying anything by far than saying what was said, assuming the email that was shown is accurate. And it's a little unlogical to say you shouldn't get subscribers when you're not streaming. There's a lot of different scenarios you could be doing. You could be doing a huge YouTube push to get people to subscribe to your Twitch. That could easily explain away gaining subscribers. If my channel was getting subscribers at all on Twitch, it would be from the video on demand things, not from me streaming on Twitch, because I've never streamed on Twitch, and I really don't see a reason to. So it's a shame. Twitch really needs to get its stuff together. It really needs to focus on the small-time streamers. It also needs to treat its big-time streamers somewhat nice, because we can't you can't burn through them in any number. Like if you lost like Ninja, Dr. Disrespect, Alinity, some of those other big time streamers, if you lose even a couple of them, you've got very few streamers left. So that's something that you have to kind of consider. Even on the YouTube perspective, although I hate that Susan Wojcicki is trying to get people like Jack Black and The Rock to stream on YouTube, it's kind of good for YouTube. Like, I wish she would spend more time focusing on small-time creators, really small-time creators like me, but that's kind of because I have a personal interest in that. But it's really not bad to have The Rock on YouTube or Jack Black on YouTube. And knowing the H3H3 podcast as I kind of do, the idea of getting on their bad side should have been a calculated risk that was averted, and you should have not allowed somebody who was going to shut off their mouth to potentially be unhappy with your service. Lemon Lover's on the chat. It's been a long time since I've seen Lemon Lover on the chat. He says, "Hey, Rydo." Hello, Lemon Lover. So, yeah. In the grander scale things, Twitch is still Twitch. It needs to be better. It really does. It needs to become a better competitor. Because unless Twitch is really the only thing that's got enough funding behind it right now to potentially succeed. Microsoft has failed to promote Mixer as any kind of service that people would want to go to, and Microsoft inherently was going to fail that because Microsoft's ideas never succeed when it comes to user forward facing services. Nobody wants to use anything that Facebook owns. I don't think anybody would want to use anything that Apple owns. So unless there is the craziest thing would be if something like DirecTV, Dish, or some cable company came out and they made their own streaming service, which could happen. You could have a ISP out there like AT&T say, actually, we have the backbone, we could make a YouTube competitor, but who would want to do business with AT&T? It would have to be something closer to a T-Mobile style company. Which again, I don't know if that's likely to happen. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. According to reports, Rockstar North hasn't paid corporate taxes in the UK for a decade. This is the double Dutch Irish tax loophole, I believe is what it's called, or something along this, where companies in general have been able to make a subsidiary in North Ireland and not pay taxes. It's also claimed here that Rockstar North claimed £42 million for relief subsidies over the past 3 years, so actual Irish UK citizens' tax money apparently was going to Rockstar North. It feels really greedy, particularly as you see GTA introducing a casino that in some countries allows you to gamble for real money, in some cases doesn't allow you to gamble at all, and in some cases seems to allow you to gamble only for in-game currency. Depending on whether the Diamond Casino where you are, seems to be the way that works. Like, if you're a citizen of a country or in a country that has strict gambling regulations, the outcome seems to be different than if you're in a country with very lax gambling regulations. Alright, so let's see if we can get one more Paladin victory. Yeah, the article says that Tax Watch is reporting this information, and they say Rockstar North makes up to 19% of all video game tax credits in the UK, which is quite large. I don't think that there's really too much of anything else to say about this, other than, yeah, corporations and video game corporations are as slimy as any other corporations, if not worse, have been dodging taxes like crazy for at least the past few decades, if not the past 4 or 5 decades. And it's something that people really need to, like, governments really need to put their foot down on and start throwing CEOs in jail and charging the actual amount of taxes that should be charged. This has been bad for the economy globally and bad for people in general. These tax haven tax schemes have been only good for the rich 0.01% of people who have money invested into those companies, or people who actually own the companies.
Let's
Move quickly.
Next we have a game on Steam called Deathless Dungeon. This looks like it's a platformer spiking game. I really wouldn't even call this something like a Super Meat Boy game, because it seems like it's actually moving pretty slow. It just seems like there's a lot of places where you could die, which probably is going to just mean that this is one of those frustration games when it boils down to it. Certainly it doesn't look like a game I would want to ever play, though. It's discounted to $9.34 in English only. Another game that has really no need to go on the list. Next we have a game on Steam called the Don't Escape Trilogy, which looks like it's a point-and-click game, but I've never heard of Don't Escape. So This looks like it's pixel graphics point and click, where you're basically just playing escape the room games. So I don't know why it's called Don't Escape. This is discounted to $4.49, English only. What I want to do is see if this developer has made any of the other Don't Escape games on Steam. Well, he made a game called Don't Escape 4, so it's kind of backwards. Well, I am a sucker for point-and-click adventure games. I don't feel like I'm that big of a sucker that I would play a 8-bit looking point-and-click adventure game. So I'm looking at the publisher now and seeing if this publisher published other games called Don't Escape. And that doesn't seem to be the case. So these games must have been like Flash games on some other site. Yeah, and the graphics are just not good enough for this. Having to combine 3 bad games to be able to charge $5, and then it's still not worth $5 in my mind. Let's see. So yeah, of course that's not going to make it to the follow list. Next we have an article from Gamma Sutra. The Microsoft CEO says the partnership with Sony was driven by the PlayStation maker, which I believe this is the exact same sentiment that was said before, is that it was the head of Sony in general, not Sony Interactive Entertainment, but Sony of Japan, that started this conversation. And so the quote here is, first of all, it's all driven by Sony. They looked at who their partners that they can trust. In fact, it turns out even though we've competed, we're also partnered, he commented, which is true. And what that boils down to is Sony has had a lot of problems with the PlayStation Network, which is run by Amazon's services, web server services, AWS services. So Amazon was just not giving them a good amount of support in Sony's mind. Now, this could easily be an example where actually Amazon services is perfect, but Sony was implementing them very badly or not paying enough for enough bandwidth, and so it was just Sony of Japan being cheap, and they think that they can get better service or cheaper service through Microsoft. But I mean, it's been a consistent issue too, so at some point you would have spent a month and said, actually, let's spend a little bit of extra money during this Christmas break and see how spending a little bit more for bandwidth would play out. It could also be a case that there's a security issue. The PlayStation networks do seem to be hacked a little bit easier than the Xbox Live services do, or denial of service a lot easier. So it could be just DDoS protection for Amazon's services aren't as good. But yeah, I think it was already pretty well known that the Sony of Japan division started this conversation and blindsided the Sony Interactive Entertainment division, which is the PlayStation division, with the announcement that they were going to be using Microsoft Azure web services. Of course, there's a lot of talk about that as if it's a thing that people who play games on PlayStation should know anything about, and the truth is they really shouldn't. Let's try this custom warrior. We'll try custom warrior and custom paladin just to keep it more interesting. It really doesn't matter, and you really shouldn't know whether Sony PlayStation Network is being run by Microsoft or run by Amazon. But Microsoft, of course, is going to make a big deal about it because they're making a big push on their server-side services more than pretty much anything else. So there is a slight danger that Microsoft might lose their focus on Xbox, and the Project Scarlet next Xbox is an afterthought because they're more interested in the server stuff. But I don't think that's going to happen either. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article here. Wolfenstein Cyberpilot reviews Cyberbunk. Wolfenstein Cyberpilot is the VR game that came out to no avail whatsoever. So you're in a mech basically, and you're just shooting Nazi things. I think you're probably in the 80s still. You can see TechRaptor gave it a 3.5 bad. They're not particularly used to giving terrible reviews, or below 5 reviews. So this one is an outstandingly bad game. Inherently, Wolfenstein Youngblood, the other game that came out, probably could have been twice as good had they not spent any money on Wolfenstein Cyberpilot and instead focused on Youngblood. The fact that there's only like 4 areas and it's a Borderlands looter shooter style game is confusing to me. Even if the 4 areas are particularly good and large in Youngblood's, if you had gotten it up to 8 areas, that would have been a lot better. When you compare it to Borderlands, Borderlands is just overflowing with locations and maps. One of my complaints about Borderlands, in particular Borderlands 1 and 2, is that there are a lot of areas that are just big. Just really, really big open areas with not a lot in them. And could have been edited down. Youngblood looks like it's small sections of Paris when it should have obviously been all of Paris. Like, and I don't know if there's, I think they're in Paris, is where they are. It should have been all of whatever city they're in. And I don't know if there was a section of a previous Wolfenstein game that had already taken place in that area. I know Wolfenstein 1 jumped all over the world, and it felt weird because of that too. More level design would have been appreciated, I think, in a lot of the Wolfenstein series, so of what I've seen, which isn't to say I have seen a lot. One damage. So, TechRaptor's summary for the 3.5 bad is Wolfenstein Cyberpilot is a video game where you decapitate a statue of Hitler and somehow feel absolutely no thrill, interest, or anything vaguely resembling fun. Pros, last level displays a few good ideas. It's graphically pretty. Cons, in comparison, it's barely any story, it's very short, it has terrible AI. Bullet sponge enemies, that's a complaint I've heard about Youngbloods too. Too much busy work, probably a complaint that could be made against Youngbloods. And boring, another complaint that could probably be made against Youngbloods. It seems really weird that they decided to spend their time focusing on making a game like this instead of just working on Wolfenstein 3. It's gotten to the point where No longer can you trust Bethesda games because they made Fallout 76, but you can't really trust Bethesda-owned other publishing companies either. So, yeah, there's questions abound about is Wolfenstein 3 going to be good? Is Doom Eternal going to be any good? It could be. They could be good. They could be terrible. It's hard to tell or have any faith whatsoever. Alright. Well, that's all I needed to do. And I think what we'll do is we'll probably only have one recording today. So I'm just going to go over to the European account. I streamed for like 5 hours on Friday. So there definitely was a reason to break up into 3 recordings then, but a lot of the other games, other times when there's very little news, there isn't too much to be made. Yeah, I think Bethesda is just cramming out terrible games and putting the Wolfenstein name and the Doom name on these terrible games. It just seems like bad leadership from the top, from ZeniMax. So we need to play Taunt, minions that cost 2 or less, and win with a major shaman. And we've already gotten this tavern brawl done. So we'll start with a major shaman victory, which would just be a Murloc shaman victory. Now, one thought, and this is just pure speculation on my part, is QuakeCon, BethesdaCon, whatever the convention was, where Diablo Immortal was announced, and the cell phone game that was received terribly, and how they didn't see that was going to be received terribly is beyond me, and I have to assume that they actually knew it was going to be received terribly, and they're just lying straight up about being surprised about that. Perhaps what happened immediately after that, it was a command instructions from higher up to convert as many of those in development mobile games into actual AAA games without any other concern or thought put to it. It would be believable to say that it would be believable to me if Wolfenstein Cyberpilot was going to actually be a cell phone game, and as such what was going to be a lot more simplistic. Like that does feel like something that could have happened. Now, Youngbloods, on the other hand, I don't know how that could have been a cell phone. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. I feel like Youngbloods probably is coming from more of an idea that they want co-op, and that the higher-ups at ZeniMax and Bethesda said, we want co-op as a feature so we can sell the game, because we think it will sell more copies of the game, when it almost certainly wouldn't. And as such, they had to figure out a way to add co-op to a Wolfenstein first-person shooter and try and make it fun. And I don't think they had a budget for it. I don't think they had the intelligence or the experience to make a co-op first-person shooter. And I don't think putting it in the Wolfenstein universe the way they did makes sense at all.
I wonder.
But yeah, it'll be interesting in particular to see what the next few ZeniMax / Bethesda games are and how they come out and how they're received. But I think anyone intelligent at this point would recognize that you should be in a very tight holding pattern for buying anything from anything that's owned by Bethesda. That would include the next Skyrim, that would include the next Fallout game, that would include the next Elder Scrolls game, the next Starlink game, or the first Starlink game. I would not trust any of them. And inherently, you shouldn't have been trusting. You really shouldn't have been trusting Bethesda, anyways, because let's face it, the best Fallout is Fallout New Vegas, made by a different company. Skyrim is beloved, but it's full of bugs that they never bothered to fix, even in the remastered version. Elder Scrolls games in particular have always been a total pile of bugs and mess. It's no longer acceptable, and wasn't really even acceptable when they launched. So they've never been about quality. They've just been allowed to potentially make it seem like they were about quality a lot more than they actually did, or should have been allowed to. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Code the Werewolf Party. This is tagged free-to-play casual strategy, although it was also marked 18, and by the looks of it, it seems like it is a troll game. There's a lot of stolen art here, both anime art and regular art, from the looks of it, to make a what looks like match 3 style game. And then you have some characters and some skills, it seems like, but this really just feels like it is all over the path. Early access free to play with in-app purchases, English and Vietnamese. So is this a just terrible Vietnamese game? Or is this some other kind of troll game? I don't know. But I do know it's not inspiring any level of confidence to make me want to actually purchase it or play it. So it's not going to the follow list. Next, we have a game on Steam called The Designer's Curse. This looks like this might be an asset flip horror game. Let's skip this video. You can sneak around and tilt, which, you know, you don't see too many asset flip games where with the ability to crouch to a wall and tilt, because that takes a little bit more time and effort to program. But yeah, this does just look like a horrible animation game where you're playing hide and go seek with some horrific creature. Yeah. I don't see anything here visually interesting. Free to play with no in-app purchases. So I guess the price is right. English, it says it has full audio English. But yeah, the Designer's Curse also does not look like a game that would be interesting to me. Go. Might as well save myself some potential health. Let's see. Lib Retro put out a video, Raspberry Pi 4, Dreamcast, Soul Calibur, and Sonic Adventure 2. This video is designed to show that the Dreamcast games seem to be running pretty well on the Raspberry Pi 4. Potentially gaining Dreamcast more compatibility and more smooth play from Dreamcast games is nice. I don't recall that the Raspberry Pi 3 had a terrible time with Dreamcast games, but maybe they did. it could just be a case of I was not particularly, when I was messing with the Raspberry Pi 3 and retro emulation, I was not focusing on Dreamcast games. The big one, I think by far, is not Dreamcast games, but instead Nintendo 64 games. Nintendo 64 emulation still has a lot of way to go. It's a little funny that Dreamcast games might run better than Nintendo 64 games because, by all rights, it should be the other way around. The Dreamcast is a slightly more demanding system as far as the hardware inside of it. But yeah, Nintendo 64's hardware in particular was very weird, to put it simply, it seems. But yeah, that's nice. I don't know if that inherently means though that you should focus in on buying a Raspberry Pi 4 compared to buying a Raspberry Pi 3 B+, because honestly, if you wait another year, you might be able to buy a Raspberry Pi 5, and the Raspberry Pi 5 might just be another couple hundred megahertz on the frequency of the CPU or the GPU. It might just give another push in power to have things work a little bit better. Although I don't think we can get much more to a leap. It's very questionable, to say the least, that you would be able to move from the Nintendo 64 to the GameCube, or from the Dreamcast to a PlayStation 3 style, let's play Mage, I guess. Yeah, a PlayStation 3 style emulation. There's just a big leap there that happens there, and I don't think that's gonna happen. Yeah, I think once you get past the Nintendo 64, you probably should be emulating games on a PC. And once you've got things running on a PC, you probably have so much power behind it that you can emulate anything. Also on PC, you could get away from the LibRetro easy way and the RetroArch easy way of running emulators, and you can start learning how to tweak the more up-to-date emulators out there, and getting more into the weeds with that kind of stuff for better performance or better accuracy, whichever you're looking for. I suppose the question could be asked, I really have no desire to stop talking about LibRetro and RetroArch, but the question could be asked on the relevancy. But I kind of feel like there is some significant relevancy here. Now that you can play old games through several different means, such as the NES Mini or Super NES Mini, or through just a Raspberry Pi, we've hit a point where it is believable that an average player of video games might go back and play old games and might want to know that information. It's stopped becoming such a niche product or offering that it didn't make sense up until this point to even mention. From my perspective, maybe my perspective is 100% flawed though. It could just be a case that because I started playing with a Raspberry Pi. It feels like everybody is playing with Raspberry Pis. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Kakuro. This looks like a Minesweeper style single screen Unity puzzle game. Don't really see anything here with enough visual polish to interest me. It's 59 cents discounted, English and Russian, so it might be a Russian troll game. So, yeah. That's not gonna make it to the wish list. Darn it. Getting rid of my spell damage. Let's get rid of this guy. Let me get rid of this. Next, we have a game on Steam called Strashilka. Sounds Russian. It looks like it is a horror asset flip style walk around the house game. So I'm skipping through the video. I see a lot of dark screenshot syndrome. Screenshots seem to be showing no real character or gameplay mechanic. So $1.79 discounted, English only. If this is English only with full audio, then why pick such a weird name? Let's see. It's a weird name. That is not something easily mentioned or emulated or repeated. So next we have this Gamma Sutra story. Nintendo recast Fire Emblem Three Houses voice actor after abuse confessions is how this is being phrased. I've only been on surface level following this story. The way this is phrased as confessions, I think is arguably not the way to ever phrase any article. If I can just pretend like I'm a journalist for half a second here. I don't feel like you write that somebody confessed to doing something unless they admit guilt in a legal proceeding case. If they somehow say something that sounds like they're admitting guilt outside of a court case, I say you probably don't want to call the confession because what happens every time here is people will listen to exactly what was said and say, actually that wasn't a confession, he was actually talking about something different, or this is the Canadian issue of if you say sorry, that doesn't mean you're confessing to if you have a car accident and you go, oh, I'm so sorry, that's not an admission of guilt on your fault of causing the car accident. In the United States, actually, if you do say, oh, I'm sorry, in a car accident, in some states, in some instances, that has been considered an admission of guilt and used against you. They passed a law in Canada, so it wasn't. Yeah, confessions is different than allegations. I think allegations are different, are the way to go with any kind of story. Here we can see Gamma Sutra says, Nintendo has recast the role of the Fire Emblem Three Houses male protagonist after the voice actor Chris Nyosi, who I have no idea about, I've never heard of him, but I have heard that Reset Era in particular and people that are fans of Fire Emblem in particular have been trying to make some major changes and get rid of people with Fire Emblem in particular. He was accused of and confessed to abusing former friends and romantic partners. Now, abusing is not always used as a legal term, but it is also a generic term. Did you push your friends? Did you punch your friends? Did you stab your friends? Did you shoot your friends? All could be abuse. It could be verbal abuse. It could be anything. He could be just a jerk. Were you verbally rude and mean to your romantic partners, or did you push your romantic partners? Did you stab them? Did you shoot? All very drastically different things. So you need some more information to get some nuance in that story. And so if we look here, it's one sentence. The game was released late last week, but a statement from Nintendo says the role has already been recast in light of the situation. The same Fire Emblem character was set to debut in the mobile game Fire Emblem Heroes, though that release has been delayed, and the IOC has already been replaced by voice actor Zach Aguilar in the credits of the mobile spin-off. Three Houses, meanwhile, will replace the voice work with that of Aguilar in a future patch. A former romantic partner, this is just another hashtag #MeToo thing, came forward online ahead of the game's release with abuse allegations against the actor shortly after Nyosi published an admission on his Tumblr that he was, quote, horribly mistreated and abused friends, colleagues, and even by significant others, and sent both public and private apologies to those who are victimized. And see, inherently, this is what a PR company will tell you to do, is just apologize and it will blow over. But it's not something that works, it seems like, anymore. In the era of Trump as president, apologizing for anything is not the right move. You should never apologize. I don't play Nintendo games. I don't really have a dog in this fight. I can click on this link that says published an admission, and let me just show this here. Here we have an incredibly small amount of text on Tumblr, and then I guess these are people who are reading this. So I would have to zoom in here and try and read this whole amount that they cherry picked, literally one fraction of a sentence to quote. I can say, as someone who's following the Vic Mignogna situation, Vic Mignogna also came out and addressed rumors about him that he claims are untrue, and then people said, well, because he addressed him, they must be true. He apologized if he did anything to hurt anyone's feelings, which is a kind of Christian thing. It's like, if I in any way offended you, I apologize, and then that means, and people just use that to say, well, clearly he's admitting that he was guilty of everything and anything that was ever said on him. This Tumblr, posting on your Tumblr and then not getting it verified is bad journalism. I think that is something in particular that he should do, that Gamasutra should do, is make sure that these are, this is actually a verified Tumblr post that was actually posted by this person. That's something Gamasutra and most video game journalist sites don't bother to ever do, is verify or confirm any bit of information. On the other hand, Do I think voice actors are saints? No, I imagine they're all slick California jerks. And I assume the same for Vic Mignogna. I assume the same for this guy, Chris Niosi. From what it seems like, they all get into relationships, in and out of relationships extremely fast, and that bit of information is in part used as an element of their how am I trying to say this? Because they're constantly in these kind of relationships, they're constantly, let's see, 11, 18, oh, he did the math for me, thank goodness, because I wasn't sure if I was gonna win there. No. Yeah, I think the exact same thing is true for actors too, that they all sleep around, they all get into these relationships, and when they get out of these relationships, people are upset. I think maybe the one thing that is different, and I guess I need to play as a paladin now to try and get some taunt minions. I think actors have agents, and the agents tell them what to do, and squash and stop ex-girlfriends from doing these kind of revenge announcements, because frankly, yeah, that's every bad relationship in the world is somebody's a little bit verbally abusive. Somebody maybe push somebody in a heat of a moment. That doesn't mean that they are a horribly abusive, I punched her through a window type boyfriend or girlfriend. So yeah, there were problems in the relationship ended, and somebody did a revenge #MeToo.
Someday I'll be just like you.
In this case, this is not even like, it really is trumped up accusations from the look of it, of being abusive, either physically or verbally, and I assume this is verbally because they would have put physically if it was the case. This is not accusations that this voice actor did anything to anybody sexual at all, that was abusive or tried to use their power to sleep with anybody. And inherently with any kind of movement, whether it's the Me Too movement or the Kickfic movement or the Gamergate movement even, or Comicsgate movement, any of these kind of movements, they need to, if there's anybody in charge, which often there isn't, they need to be very careful to pick very good examples of things that their movement supports, or examples of abuse, because if there is a wimpy, weak story, like the Channel Awesome story, where it was just page after page of, yes, they're jerks, but there's really not anything big enough in those stories to keep people's attention, you're going to lose people's attention. And that's exactly what happened with Channel Awesome, is that they did it right. They didn't apologize. They just weathered the storm, and Channel Awesome is on YouTube. The same is true with the Fine Brothers. The Fine Brothers, I think, did apologize, but Fine Brothers Entertainment, the React channels, they kind of did it right. So yeah, I really don't have a lot to say about the story, because I don't think we're gonna follow it any further than this unless the Fire Emblem voice actor decides to start suing people for slander, like the Vic Mignogna situation happened. Once it became a real court case, that's when it became real news and interesting to me. And I imagine if Vic Mignogna does manage to win most of his claims, or look at least like the victor in this case, you will see a lot more people suing for slander or for making accusations or attempting to mess with people's business.
I will fight
Like this
with honor.
ex-girlfriend,
I will command the light.
almost certainly for the Fire Emblem Three Emblems voice actor, was committing tortious interference, if that can be proven, to get him to lose his job. On the other hand, if the contracts for voice actors in Nintendo video games are anything like the Funimation contracts, he probably got paid to do that voice acting, and that was all the money he was ever going to make anyways. So now it just comes down to, was this voice actor going to conventions or anything and signing headshots or selling signatures? Because if he wasn't doing that, he probably got his money and doesn't really have a claim for arguing that he was expected more jobs in the future. Let's see. Moving on to another story that's barely video game related. GitHub access is restricted in Iran, Syria, and Crimea due to sanctions. I thought this had already happened. Seems like Gamasutra seems to like to report old news without much being changed. But yeah, okay. The access is restricted to those countries. I did find a plugin finally that put Twitter back to the way it used to be. Not that I really even like the way the old Twitter used to look, but it is. I'm back to where it was. So, but I will admit, I may have moved a little too fast, and frankly, I might be better off using the new Twitter's interface, because it makes the part once zoomed in, the tweets actually fit the screen a little bit better and take up a little bit more space, so I can read them easier. So I might disable that plugin, re-enable the plugin, and try it the new way versus the old way. My main complaint about Twitter is just having the sidebar on the side the whole time. That's what felt like a waste of space more than anything else.
For justice.
Let's see. Gamasutra has an article here. Get a job. Hi-Res Studios is hiring an experienced QA analyst. These job board articles, as they were, are really just very quick write-ups, aren't they? Like, they're just taking what is listed on their job board site and making it look like an article. Anyways, if you want to be a QA analyst in Brighton, England for Hi-Res Studios, that's an option. I don't know exactly what Hi-Res Studios. They made Smite, Paladins, and Realm Royale. It seems like those are the big games that they made. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Virtual Cast. This is another one of these low-effort anime games with just anime characters that have been either purchased very cheaply or stolen. And it seems like you pick an avatar and pose an avatar and then try and cast it, or record it in some way. It's free online multiplayer game. English and Japanese.
Let me think.
This looks more like a virtual cast. It looks more like a piece of software than an actual game. Seems like it's trying to be like Second Life.
I must move quickly.
Or in particular, it seems like it's trying to make it so that
Reporting for duty.
it's the next big thing that YouTube streamers, gaming streamers play with, and for the memes. Next we have a game on Steam here called Exotanks MOBA. This is skipping all of the videos. I don't even want to watch the videos because if it's a MOBA game, then it's not something I'm really interested in. It looks like it's probably a tank versus tank game, which is not something I'm very interested in. And it looks like it's pretty generic sand environments. A lot of videos here. What's weird is it's kind of from this third person perspective where I would have thought it would have been a top down perspective. But okay. Whatever.
Access denied. The battle.
See, Exotanks MOBA is early access. It is $14.99 with no discount. It's multiplayer only. It's English and Russian. Well, it might be a Russian troll game, or it might not. In the end, it's a MOBA and a multiplayer only game, so I'm not going to play it anyways. So I'll just leave it at that. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article. Nipponichi Software launches game variety smartphone game brand in Japan. So they've got a whole new brand they plan on listing games for.
I hope you like
Yomawari, Game Variety Shogi, Game Variety Go, Game Variety Reversing. These three are just simplistic board games, whereas Yomawari I think is a shoot 'em up game. Logic Mahjong, Arcane Classic,
Move quickly.
Juno no Kazuha, Enshin Hayagami.
One shot, one.
None of those games' names really stick out in my mind as games I recognize, so I suspect that those are all pretty simplistic or lesser known games. Let's see, Gamatsu has an article here. Ninja Jaja Mario collection announced featuring a new title, Ninja Jaja Mario The Great Yokai Battle. This looks like an arcade game of some sort that never came to the West. Yeah, I really don't see anything
Reporting for
here of interest. It just looks like a really old arcade game series. And I suspect it's not coming to the West since it's pretty much unrecognizable to me.
Converting stored energy.
Let's see.
Converting stored energy.
I'm just trying to burn through all the news because we really don't have a lot. Next we have a game on here with a bunch of Asian characters and the number 31. This is probably either Korean or Japanese low effort horror game. Low fidelity graphics. So I imagine this says something like Bunker 31. It actually looks a lot like the 13 Monkeys TV series, but I guess a Large Hadron Collider would probably look like that anyway, so not seeing any gameplay, I'm not seeing any enemies, I'm seeing a lot of dark screenshot syndrome. It's early access, English is not supported, it's discounted to $2.79. It's Chinese only. So yeah, this looks like a cheap Chinese asset flip walking simulator. Would be what I would guess it is.
Reporting for duty.
We might actually finish today with no games going to the wish list at all. Next we have a game on Steam called Pictures of Life, which I think you just run around finding pictures, and then you put the pictures on the wall. So yeah, a really simplistic, low-effort game. $3.19 discounted English and Russian. The Russian troll games are coming in fast and furious. Next we have a game on Steam called Tricky Cow, which looks like a simplistic platform jumping game where you have to jump on things a certain number of times to open the bell and then collect the bell. Seems like this is a simplistic mobile game that's been ported to Steam. $4, 40% off for $1.19, and English only with 100 achievements. It's clearly an achievement game, and thus not worth the effort or money.
Reporting for duty. Gamma Sutra has the same article here, we won't cover it again. GTA dev Rockstar Games under fire from the UK tax watchdog for basically dodging paying any UK taxes. Let's see. Next we have a game here called Image of Perfection. Looks like an RPG Maker game with some visual novel elements too. It's tagged actually more visual novel than an RPG Maker game. Animation looks terrible. Game looks terrible. It's $4.24 discounted, English only. Yep, that's again not making it to the wish list. The battle reporting for duty.
Techraptor has an article here. Mobile title Pokemon Duel is shutting down October 31st. I've never heard of Pokemon Duel though. It's a mobile figure battle game.
It's time to test your metal.
Pokemon Duel is one of many Pokemon-themed mobile games released in the past several years, with the likes of Pokemon Go, Pokemon Quest, Pokemon Rumble Rush, and Pokemon Masters all appealing on phones, and the Nintendo Switch in several cases worldwide. I don't know anything about Pokemon Duel though. I've never even heard of it up until this point. But I would assume, just in general, that Pokemon Masters supersedes and eliminates a desire or need for Pokemon Duel to exist. That's all I could assume, is that Pokemon Masters is just a better version of Pokemon Duel with slightly different game mechanics. That's why they are changing the name and getting a different release. Moving on, as I'm probably going to lose, Techraptor has an article, Wolfenstein Youngblood review, old meets new. Even people that I've heard, mainstream video game journalists that have praised Wolfenstein Youngblood, they pretty quickly after 3 or 4 hours realize it's not that good. And it is full of microtransactions that I didn't even hear about at the beginning, but yeah, there's definitely some boosters and microtransactions all in it for no reason. So Techraptor is giving it a 7.5, very good.
Wolfenstein Youngblood is more or less as good as its predecessor, but the implementations of some of the new gameplay features leave the tiniest of imperfections in an otherwise excellent game. Pros are graphically and technically superb, lots of guns, upgrades, and abilities, fairly replayable, intense and fast gameplay. Cons occasionally drawing tone shifts, samey open world locations, unnecessary RPG mechanics. Upgrades are slow to obtain. And why are upgrades slow to obtain? Because it has microtransactions in it. I've also heard that playing by yourself is pretty terrible. So that's something that I don't think I would want to do, and that's just more reason why I don't want to play Youngbloods, and the reviews seem to be on my side with that. See, to me it feels like there's half a game there, and there needed to be over one full game's worth of content in it, and the cheaper price does not help when it's full of microtransactions in any way. This Youngbloods feels a lot like the Shadows of Mordor game, the sequel. It feels like a game that 6 months to a year now they may take all the microtransactions out, rebalance it, and fix it. But I wouldn't be surprised if they never actually do that, and it's just always going to be a mediocre at best game. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. Bethesda is removing the mandatory login from the Doom re-releases after fan backlash. So I'm fairly certain we covered this. They re-released Doom. Apparently they're also going to re-release Doom 64. Now in fairness, they re-released Doom on some platforms where Doom already existed on XBLA, I think. So they forced people who had already purchased Doom on XBLA and had that backward compatible copy into buying a new copy of Doom for no reason. And then this new copy of Doom had everybody forced into signing into it with a Bethesda account because of their Doom Slayers Club is the reason they said that exists. But clearly somebody was cynically testing to see if they could get away with getting people's emails for the first few days at the very least. So yeah, it's just a bad look, frankly, because the only reason they should have even been re-releasing Doom is as an advertisement to get people to buy other Bethesda and id Tech style games like the new Wolfenstein Youngbloods or Doom Eternal when it comes out, which is not coming out too far from now, so they've killed all their goodwill just by their stupid shenanigans.
To battle!
So yeah, definitely not a good look. Also, it's potentially worth mentioning that there is a well-known bug in Doom called Wiggle that causes textures to slide at certain angles. These new releases of Doom are ported to Unity, one would assume, and the wiggle shouldn't be there because they should be using OpenGL animation, and yet it's still there. Whereas if you were just using PR Boom, which is one of the main emulators out there, you can through the settings completely eliminate the wiggle easily. So compared to what people the emulating community has done to make several engines that run Doom files, the official Unity re-release of Doom is not even doing a great job with it. I would also like to point out that when I was playing Doom 2016, the reboot of Doom, and it was giving me just one level of a Doom 1 or Doom 2 game, and it was giving it to me in a very weird way. That wasn't just playing the old levels in the new engine, but it was playing most of the old level layout in the new engine, but the enemy's AI was probably exactly the same as in the main game, and the textures and skins of the main of Doom Guy and the enemies were the new textures and skins. It felt very awkward, and it's definitely not what I would have wanted. I would have wanted to say, the game to say, after you beat the first level, here's all of episode 1 of Doom, the original Doom game. Play it now, play it here, if that's what interests you. That would have been way better than the way things had to be unlocked and secrets had to be found to unlock specific levels. Moving on, since I'm trying to wrap up pretty fastly here, IO Interactive is working on a non-Hitman project, confirms plans for Hitman 3, Hitman Trilogy to culminate in a single game with 20 plus locations. Interesting. Now, IO Interactive was the company that bought itself out from under, I believe, Square Enix, and has been, from the outside, doing a pretty good job of being successful on their own. They needed a non-Hitman project, definitely, because they cannot be a one-title company. You really shouldn't. You need several tentpole projects as you're growing, and as your tent gets bigger, you can have 3-4 tentpole projects, and then 4, 5, 6 lesser known side projects. At least ideally that's what I would be trying to reach if I was running a video game company. So I'm a little happy for IO Interactive's independent success. At some point I very well may get around to playing the new Hitman games. Not that they're even particularly my style of gameplay, but I would like to kind of try them out. Next we have a game on Steam here called Hyacinthus, as best I can guess. It's tagged free to play. This looks like a low effort game, MS Paint level graphics. I would almost call it a visual novel, but it really looks like maybe it's more of a point-and-click adventure. It's English is not supported, it's free, but you can donate 99 cents. It's supposed to be Japanese and Chinese, so I'd probably call this a terrible Chinese game if my bias against Chinese games. But it might be a terrible Japanese game. It's a 50-50 shot there, so we'll leave it at that. But definitely it's not a game that's going to make it to the wish list. QuakeCon is, I believe, about to wrap up, and the one thing we have not seen or heard from QuakeCon is any like real announcements of new games or anything to hype anybody about anything. QuakeCon by far is one of the, I think, worst conventions out there, and I could totally get and understand that it should be potentially shut down. Because yeah, it's more of a fan convention, and I don't think the fan convention element there can sustain itself since Bethesda is basically convincing people to become less fans. Next, we have a game here on Steam called C64, as in Commodore 64 and Amiga Classics, spelled with an X. Remakes, Six Packs 3. I think these are probably stolen games, if I was to guess, running through an emulator. Because if Commodore 64 and Amiga games were going to be put out in a bundle, I don't think it's going to be self-published by this company. Even if these were third-party games. Remember, before the Nintendo seal of approval, people were releasing all kinds of third-party games that were terrible quality. This is $5.99, English and German. Let's see what this developer has made otherwise. He's got a 6-pack 1, 6-packs 2, 6-pack 3, and then we have a long list of games here, none of which have ever gotten enough to be rated. So what they're releasing is definitely not catching anybody's attention. Honestly, with maybe the exception of Adventure or ET, Commodore 64 or Amiga games are not worth mentioning or covering at all. There's a YouTuber out there that does battle reports, and he'll compare different versions of games that were ported, and some games that maybe were released on the NES and the Commodore 64 and the Amiga might get some comparison there, but even then, that's not really that good. Here we have TechRaptor has a Kill La Kill IF Too Little Too Late article. I think there is a valid argument to be made about how Kill La Kill took too long as a game to come out before after the anime, so it's kind of lost all of its attention. They gave a 4.5 mediocre, which I honestly don't think is a fair review, but I'm going to really withhold most judgment until I see people buying it on Steam and what their reviews are. Let's see. Their summary is Kill La Kill IF wants to show off all that was great about a 2013 anime, but between its muddled story modes, small character roster, and questionable mechanics, it doesn't quite stick the landing. Pros, interesting story battles and unique characters. Cons, confusing storylines, filler game modes, and luck-based mechanics. So, who reviewed this? A events coordinator by the name of Andrew Stretch. This might be an instance of TechRaptor handing the review over to somebody who's not qualified to review a game. Particularly, that's a typical thing. Give the anime guy game to the new guy because we don't want to play it. Andrew Stretch here, and this is where you should always know who's talking to you. Action, adventure, and platforming titles seem to be his favorite, so he's not really set in this description to be reviewing a fighting game. I'm primarily an Xbox gamer. I also spend a fair bit of time on the PS4 and on my PC in VR. It seems to be focused on VR, probably too much too. Let's see, so yeah. I feel like this review is probably off. I really don't think it's in line with what people want from a Kill La Kill game. And inherently, I guess the Kill La Kill story is a story of some hidden depth and some shallowness. So if somebody plays Kill La Kill IF and they're not looking for the hidden depth, or they're not looking for just the blatant shallowness, then you might find yourself in a mushy middle there.
Welcome back.
But I'll take the review to heart. Inherently, I can't cover Kill IF on YouTube anyways, so it is a game I kind of want to support being created, because I'd like to see more older animes get video games made too. Also, I'd like to see more niche animes get video games made around them. Alright, so we need Paladin and Warrior, play Warlock cards, and play 6 secrets. And this is the Tavern Brawl on the Asian account we need to do. So let's start with that. Moving on, TechRaptor has another article. Mages to separate from Kadokawa Group and absorb 5PB brand. So, Mages, the creators of series such as Steins Gate and Robotics Notes, announced that Chiyomaru Studio, an independent company headed by Mage's president, would be purchasing all of the studio's shares from the parent company, Dwango. The purchase will result in a complete split of Mages from the Kadokawa Group and lead them to being an independent company. That said, it is likely the two will remain on good terms and continue to work in the future. This is probably a little too inside baseball as far as Japanese business dealings, so I'm not sure what to really take from this. In addition to their video game business, Mages also serves as a record label for anime and video game music, and has released music for a variety of artists since getting into the music business in 2006, which is typical for Asian companies, that they do a little bit of everything. One thing I can say about another Japanese company is they did manage to recover pretty much everything from their servers from the Kioni arson attack. So the servers apparently were on the 3rd floor. They did not apparently get damaged by water or fire or smoke or anything like that, enough to the point where they could not get the information off the servers, which is good. Why they didn't have backups and why they couldn't say with 100% confidence that we've got backups in a couple different locations offsite, we're perfectly fine. Maybe we lost a day or a week's worth of work. It doesn't change the direness of the situation by much, however, because it still is a case of them being particularly in a bad spot because of the 30 plus people that died. All very skilled artists in their own right, I'm sure, and thus it's going to be pretty much impossible to replace those workers for the same style of art and the same quality of work. On top of that, you have the emotional issues of people not wanting to go back to work, or people being traumatized and unable to go back to work. So yeah, Kioni is still going to be in a rough spot for years to come. I mean, they'll probably feel the effects for the rest of their the business's life. So, I mean, small victories, I guess, is about all you can expect. Yeah. See, TechRaptor has a story here. Hashtag Dungeon is being removed from Steam soon. This feels like another one of those stories where a terrible game is trying to get people to buy by saying it's going to be removed soon. But maybe the story is a little bit different. Roguelike Dungeon Crawler #Dungeon is being removed from Steam after several years of developer inactivity. This roguelike Dungeon Crawler attracted a measure of success, but the team behind it has eventually moved on to different careers. Now they are disbanded their game development company, Hit Point Games, consequently removing their only game from the Steam store along with it. Now they're disbanding their game development company, Hit Point Games, so they are doing it, not Valve. Inherently, I think Valve needs to step in and say, okay, these are... There is a number of...
Time runs out on me.
There's a number of companies out there that are not putting out any updates or communicating with us. They should be able to send an automated email that says, click this button so we know you're still alive. And if you don't click this button, we're going to remove your game. And there's a lot of old games in particular that should be... should justify cleaning up the Steam storefront and removing games. But yeah, this really is just more of an advertisement more than anything. You can buy the game for $2.99. Looking at the screenshot for #Dungeon, it's not worth $2.99. Pretty obvious.
What to do? What to do?
Let's see. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Impalians, or MP Aliens, and it looks about as good as #Dungeon did. Terrible quality of graphics. Looks like it's player versus player style Smash Brothers type game, platforming. Discounted to $4.79, English only. Says it has single player, but I don't suspect it focuses on it at all. So yeah, that's nothing. Next, we have a game on Steam that's a bunch of Asian war characters, and then it's called Dishonest. Probably, if I was to guess, is a visual novel. The animation of the characters doesn't look too terrible, but I suspect this might be a Chinese visual novel. Let's scroll down. English is not supported, it's free. Simplified Chinese, yeah. I do want to applaud them though that their animation style does look like it's better than, or getting better slowly. Slowly we're getting better visual novels from China, and giving it away for free is interesting, to say the least. That's not something we've been seeing a lot of from Japanese developers either. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Glitch Puzzle, which I think, if I was to guess, is a slide puzzle game with a art filter over it, with anime goes, yeah.
I will fight with
So,
fire.
just
I will
like
command the light.
nothing here at all. And take note that half of the screen is being taken up by this character here during the whole time. Regardless of what puzzle or slide puzzle you're doing, half of the screen is being taken up by that. That's terrible. It's $1.69 discounted, English only. It's rated E for everyone, it claims. That's probably not true. So yeah, another low effort slide puzzle game. Next, we have a game on Steam called Welcome Back to Reality, which I bet is a low effort game of some sort. And yep, it's a low effort troll game. Early access discounted for $12.59 with a bunch of items to purchase, English and German, with 9 achievements. Yeah. This clearly is garbage.
Let me think.
Let's see.
I must move quickly.
I shall meet you.
This. Pretty much once I get done with this daily quest, I think we'll be done for today. Next we have a game on Steam called Zero Gravity. It looks like it's just a retro looking platforming game. Nothing here visually appealing at all. It's like I really just end up saying the same thing over and over again. It's just ugly. It's just ugly. $7.99 English only. Yeah. Not going to make it to the follow list. Next we have a game on Steam called Last Day of Rome. It's tagged early access strategy game. This might actually be a game. Instead of looking at these terrible garbage piles. A card-based strategy game. Early access, $8.99 discounted. English, Russian, French, and German. Because it's French and German also, I am not scared that this is going to be a troll game. It's got a lot of positive reviews. I've actually found a game that I can put on the follow list. Now, in all fairness, I probably wouldn't want to play this game. I just wouldn't. But I'll give it a chance. I'll think about it, put it on the follow list. But yeah, maybe a Roman-centered style strategy game might have something here. Here we have a game that's being published by Brenda University of Applied Sciences. So this is another student project. We'll see what else they published. It is a fighting game with weirdly animated blue/green fish-like creatures. I don't know if it really behooves people to teach them how to make fighting games in particular, but because that's very heavy in the animation
Let me think.
elements and not so heavy in the programming elements. Because clearly it's going to be a lot harder to program a robust gun system or physics system or something like that than it is to program just punch moves forward, hitbox moves forward, hitbox does damage. Yep. There's only 2 characters in this student project. This is a student project, clearly. So I like to show off student projects. I'll put it on the follow list because of that. But you can kind of see this game. Kraken. Oh, I didn't even get it. It's Kraken. Like, you can kind of see that it's not fully there. Other games this college has published. You have one called Captain Starshot, Bon Voyage, Kraken, Stellar Survival, Muscles Magic, and Shattered Lights. I don't think any of these games in particular have ever caught my eye. I would argue, looking at the games that get put out by Brenda University,
Let me think.
Is that what that says even? Breda University? Maybe it says Breda. I can't read it, it's too small of a text. Yeah, I would expect you would probably want to have people make games that look like this a lot more than a fighting game. But yeah, I'll put it on the follow list and we'll look at it at some point. I don't know when is a good time to actually look at it. That's a a good thought to have is maybe in January, maybe in February. Those would be good months to look at some project games when there's not a lot of new games coming out. Or yeah, I don't see a reason to really do it around Christmas. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Super Mario Maker 2 raises its course upload limit from 632 to 64. While that is a doubling, that still is a pretty small number. They may double it to 128 levels. Makes some sense.
Reporting for duty.
So, yeah, I could also see them just trying to be cheap on the server space. It's probably less than a couple megs to upload a level. There is a video file of sorts, a gameplay file that you have to upload also, or you have to beat the level. Maybe that video file isn't actually uploaded to the servers though. So that might be a consideration of space, but really it wouldn't be much. The health and attack of all minions to 1. Okay.
The battle!
The last ends, but we
The battle!
fight.
The battle! Reporting for duty.
So just out of spite, I'm gonna attack, but clearly I've lost. TechRaptor has an article here. Prepare for trouble. Pokemon Go adds Team Go Rocket events, which
The light dims.
Team Go Rocket is different than Team Rocket, it seems like. Trainers must rise up to clear out their Pokestops and rescue the shadow Pokemon. These twisted Pokemon appear to be in incredible pain, and it's up to the members of Team Valor and Mystic and Instinct to help them. Oh, that might be a little scary and not kid-friendly, depending on what these shadow Pokemon really look like. Shadow Pokemon concept first appeared in GameCube title Pokemon Coliseum. They're featured prominently in Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. Team Cypher's action in the Ore Legion led to the usage of shadow Pokemon, and the game's heroes work to restore them using their own purification process. Alright, so Pokemon Go is adding some new features, and there's not even any pictures to show off there. So, yeah. That's the thing. Pokemon Go is still being a thing. TechRaptor has an article here. Farming Simulator League starts its first matches today. That was July 28th. The idea that there would be an esports league around Farming Simulator seems insane. But apparently they're giving £250,000 worth of prizes away. No, in your Farming Simulator is super popular. I did not think it was this popular. I don't know what the real competition here is. Is it just to see how much money you can earn in a time, or is it seems like maybe you're going to race your tractors around different areas? Maybe they put in some gameplay modes. The idea of Farming Simulator having some gameplay modes makes some sense. Gives you more to do. Certainly. Yeah, they've put on some full gameplay concepts in the play. Interesting. Well, maybe it's the next big thing. It'd be weird, certainly, but Next, we have a game on Steam called Horror Veil, which apparently was on some other platform from the looks of this video description. To me, this looks like this is a low effort clone of Undertale, just using Halloween type aesthetics. This is Act 1, even though it's not being labeled as Act 1, early access, free to play, single player only. So I have no idea how they plan on making any money in this at all, which means I have no idea how this possibly would actually finish as a project. Almost certainly won't. Yep, visually there's nothing there of any interest to me.
No more pretenders.
ScumVM announced that they are working on compatibility for the game Versailles 1685, which is a game I've never heard of, but it's almost certainly another one of those DOS-based games that had some level of fandom. The ScumVM seems to do a very good job about focusing on focusing on games people actually care about and are interested in, instead of having games that they support that nobody's ever really heard of. As ScumVM continues to grow as an emulator that just runs almost every DOS-based game, instead of being just a game that an emulator designed around running the Maniac Mansion Scum games. Alright, we want to do this.
Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty.
And in return. Next, we have a game on Steam called Cockatrice Attacking the City, which seems to be just a single screen with chickens attacking the city and just clicking to destroy them. Extremely low effort, extremely simple game. English apparently not supported, but they would like $13.99, and it's Chinese only. So, yeah, another terrible, garbage Chinese game on Steam. Yeah. At a certain point, Valve probably is going to have to put their foot down and say, "Hey, let's cool it on these terrible Russian games, these terrible Chinese games. We need to have a level of quality that we maintain on our storefront." But they have to be that would be not libertarian enough for Steam and Valve, so that they're gonna have to be dissuaded from their ideas of extreme libertarian or extreme liberty before they can go any further. Moving on, we have a game called The Tales of Epticon Kingdom, which looks like it's a mobile game, maybe an RPG that's been ported to PC. Doesn't look particularly interesting or particularly good. Looks like it might just be all visual novel too, because I'm not seeing any gameplay. Early access discounted to $3.79. Yeah, I don't know why it would be early access if it's a port from a cell phone game, but it is, and it looks like garbage.
Reporting for duty. To battle!
Let's see, Gametsu has an article here. The smartphone game War of Visions Final Fantasy Brave Exvius has an overview trailer. So, if you're interested in that. I wouldn't be surprised if this game comes over to the West, or is it available in the West right now. Yeah, it is available in Japan and the West, free to play with in-app purchases right now. Or will be. Let's see.
Ungoro belongs to the Titan.
Might as well just keep playing secrets. Here's the Tech Raptor article of the story we talked about at the beginning of the stream. Fire Emblem voice actor to be replaced amid sexual abuse allegations. July 27th. That's, in my opinion, the right way to phrase a title. Even if there have been some confessions or confirmations made by the voice actor, until they are convicted in the court, because you know there were court instances, there were court cases where people have confessed and then the court has said, actually no, you're wrong, you're not guilty. So there's a lot of things that you want to be careful about.
Put your faith in the light.
Let's see. Yeah, just as the person writing a article, as a video game journalist, you just don't want to come off as unbiased, to say the least. That's another factor you to consider, is that you should not have bias in your writing, should not have opinion in your writings. This next game is tagged sexual content and nudity, so let me just make sure all of the screenshots are YouTube friendly. Yeah, they are. Next game we have on Steam is called The Witch's Love Diary, and this came out right after I streamed last Friday, so really all the Monday games have been terrible. So this is a Sekai Project visual novel game with anime girls. Again, it's $26.99 discounted. Full Japanese audio, English. I'll put this on the follow list and see if people like it. Of course, I'm gonna have to try to establish some form of what's the right word to say? Some form of filtering out on visual novels, because really I only want to cover maybe the top 5 to the top 10. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole covering a bunch of visual novels unless I can figure out a way to do it on the YouTube while being very careful and family friendly. On the other hand, though, if these games were gifted to me and that was people's way of supporting the industry and Sekai Project, then I'd be more than happy to have these games and just potentially play them at my leisure or not play them at my leisure. Or if I was just rolling in cash and wanted to support the industry, I might just purchase the games to support the industry even if I'm planning on not playing them. Next we have a game on Steam called Robot Terminator, which is basically a T-800 skeleton running around with swords. It's a low effort asset flip game. 59 cents. English, says it has full audio. Yeah, there's nothing here though that would interest me.
Repent.
And next we have a game on Steam called Fortune Telling. It's labeled as a simulation game. All this is a video showing this one scene. So I'm questioning whether there is anything more to it than that. You seem to be just like low effort asset flip animations or or objects to make some kind of walking simulator without possibly even the walking. 59 cents discounted, English and Chinese. Yep, looks like total garbage.
The light dims.
Repent.
But we fight.
And there's only one more tab
The scourge will devour all.
open, so I can go back to my Twitter feed and look at for new news. But we're gonna have to wrap up the stream. Last game we have on Steam is called Wolf Quest Anniversary Edition. It looks like it's a asset flip game where you run around as a wolf. Maybe there's some gameplay here, looking at these gazelles. It's an interesting question. How much entertainment would you have running around as a wolf, chasing after other animals? I assume brutally killing and eating those animals. Because the previous games I've seen where you play as an animal, you're an animal that's being hunted, not you're not an animal that's in danger of
The light protects me.
doing the hunting. So, yeah, I'm concerned that this would be kind of brutal and gruesome and repetitive. Wolf Quest Anniversary Edition is $14.99, English only, as a third-party account you need. And that's the thing that in particular is going to make me not put it on the follow list, is the idea that I would have to have a third-party account. See, I have a few more days for the Very Positive 3 bundle before that ends on the Humble Bundle store. And doesn't look like there's any new bundles. The Hooked on Multiplayer 2019 bundle has 7 days left.
Let me think.
So then that leaves me with 18 new Twitter tweets to open up and scroll through. And then I'm just going to focus on playing Hearthstone. So ideally what we need to have happen on Hearthstone is I need to get a victory on this Tavern Brawl. I've got to get that done. I've got to get it done today because there's gonna be a issue. I'm gonna miss the free pack, and I don't want to miss the free pack.
Time waits for no one.
I'm looking at tweets of a comic book artist who sold art calendars, and it was a huge mess, and they were delivered in damaged condition, and she is not happy about it, which is understandable. So
No more take candles.
I fight.
let's see. I have a couple things we can talk about, but not a lot. Most of those tweets were all from the comic book artist of the 18 tweets.
Apparently the second DLC, Light Bearer, drops on all platforms for We Happy Few. Nobody mentions that. That's Gearbox Publishing's job, is to you know, promote these things. So the fact that it's not getting covered and mentioned is not good.
For justice.
I fight.
Let's see. So we have a game on Steam here called Hentai Mosaic Fix-It Shop. What's weird is this is tagged as an RPG.
Let me think.
It seems like there's some kind of gameplay here, but I can't really figure out what it is. It's not like a Mosaic slide puzzle game alone. It seems like it's something else. So, but almost certainly it's not worth buying. $2.99, bunch of languages, full audio, 98 achievements, making it an achievement game. Let's see. It's apparently you're sliding, rotating images to reveal pictures. What's funny is this actually feels like there's a game here.
Reporting for duty. The battle!
Fight.
Didn't play fast enough. Well, I'm gonna give this game a follow just to see if there's actually a game here. But almost certainly anything with hentai, which is just Japanese for pervert, in the name, is not a game worth owning. Oh, what was the price on that, by the way? $2.99 with no discount. And then the other thing I have to talk about is Sekai Games' official website open. Sekai Project's console games focused offshoot. So they've made a website. Alright, good for them. And that literally is all the news that there was to speak of.
Let me think. The battle!
So, at this point, we've done one long episode that I, at some point, could have split into 2 short episodes, definitely, or 3 really short episodes. The only thing I need to do is win here. I think there's a decent chance I can win, and if I can do that, then that'll be the end of this recording. If I lose, I think we're still at the end of the recording. And I'll just play off screen for a minimal amount, because this secret, this here, and this here. I've probably lost, yeah. Yeah, I've lost, so I'm gonna just have to play off screen to get this Tavern Brawl. This is your standard experience for Tavern Brawls in a nutshell. Is just a ridiculous amount of struggle. But I guess the good news is that they now give you more time to get these things done.
The light protects me.
Seems like I spooked him a little bit with the seekers. See, and they gave me something that should have won, definitely. This is the kind of information you don't want. Is, oh, by the way, the deck you were playing won 136 times. Your foe's deck has only won 16 times. There's no reason there's no reason you should be playing this badly. If you lose, you get a copy of your foe's deck. So somehow now I've gone from a deck that's won quite a bit to a foe's deck that's pretty bad. So you can't just goof around on this Tavern Brawl in particular. You have to pay attention. Yeah. I don't think I'll get a Paladin or Warrior victory through the Tavern Brawl, so I'll have to do that also off screen. But we're done for this stream. That's going to be it for this recording. See you on Wednesday. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.